asya yatra papiya shastraya ime ripavo asya yatra tadvamamushya paramasya vikunta bartuhu kartum prakrushtamiha dhimahi mandadibhyam lokanito vrajatam antarabhava drushya papiya shastraya ime ripavo asya yatra tadvamamushya paramasya vikunta bartuhu kartum prakrishtama ihadi mahimandadibhyam lokanito vrajatam antarabhava drushya papiya shastraya ime ripavosya yatra Tad, therefore, Vam, unto these two, Amushya, of him, Paramasya, the Supreme, Vikunta Vartuhu, the Lord of Vaikunta, Kartum, to bestow, Prakrishtam, benefit, Iha, in the matter of this offense, Dhimahi, let us consider, Mandadibhyam, those whose intelligence is not very nice. Lokan, to the material world. Itaha, from this place Vaikunta. Vrajatam, go. Antarabhava, duality. Dushtya, on account of seeing. Papiyashaha, sinful. Prayaha, 3. Ime, these. Ripavaha, enemies. Asya, of a living entity. Yatra, where. Translation and purport by Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, let us consider how these two contaminated persons should be punished. The punishment should be apt, for thus benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world, where the living entities have 3 kinds of enemies. Please repeat the translation. Therefore, let us consider how these two contaminated persons should be punished. The punishment should be apt, for thus benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world, where living entities have 3 kinds of enemies. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The reason why pure souls come into the existential circumstance of the material world, which is considered to be the criminal department of the Supreme Lord, is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Verse number 27. It is stated that as long as a living entity is pure, he is in complete harmony with the desires of the Supreme Lord. But as soon as he becomes impure, he is in disharmony with the desires of the Lord. By contamination, he is forced to transfer to this material world where the living entities have three enemies, namely desire, anger, and lust. These three enemies force a living entity to continue material existence, and when one is free from them, he is eligible to enter the kingdom of God. One should not therefore be angry in the absence of an opportunity for sense gratification, and one should not be lusty to acquire more than necessary. In this verse, it is clearly said that the two doormen should be sent into the material world where criminals are allowed to reside. Since the basic principles of criminality are sense gratification, anger, and unnecessary lust, persons conducted by these three enemies of the living entity are never promoted to Vaikuntha Loka. People should learn Bhagavad Gita and accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as the Lord of everything. They should practice satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord instead of trying to satisfy their own senses. Training in Krishna consciousness can help one be promoted to Vaikuntha. That's the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshuram militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaurabhaktarunda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Kumaras were thinking of giving punishment to Jai Vijaya. So what is their contemplation is mentioned in this verse. Tadvam amushya paramasya vikunta bartuhu. Therefore, of these two personalities, Jaya and Vijaya, who are the personal attendants of the Master of Vaikuntha, Lord of Vaikuntha, Kartum Prakrishtamaiha Dhimahi Mandadibhyam. So we should do something to bestow upon them which is a benefit. And in certain way, it should be also Mandadibhyam, whose intelligence is not very nice. So let us consider, let us do something, let us think of something by which they could be benefited and they could be punished also. Lokanito vrajatam antara bhava drishtya. They should be transported from this Vaikuntha world to the material world. Why? What is the reason for them? Antara bhava drishtya, because of a sense of discrimination, sense of duality. Papi yashastraya ime ripavo asya yatraha. And where they should stay? In the association of all sinful men, Papi Yashaha, who are tortured by Traya Ime Ripavaha, the three kinds of enemies, lust, anger, greed. So they should be deported to material world, where all sinful people live, where they are forced with three enemies, where they have to suffer with these three enemies, lust, anger, greed. So what is the reason? Because they have Antarabhava Drishtya. They have this discrimination of or duality of perception, which should not exist in the Vaikuntha planets. So this was the consideration of Kumaras. Let us see what is there in that translation, how it is said. Therefore, let us consider how these two contaminated persons should be punished. Tad dhimahi vam papi yasha amushya paramasya vikunta bartuhu. The punishment should be apt. Iha mandadibhyam. And further, benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Kartum prakrishtam. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, antarabhava drishtya, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world. Lokan ito vrajatam. Where living entities have three kinds of enemies. Traya yame ripavo asya yatraha. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, as long as living entity is pure, he is in complete harmony with the desires of the Supreme Lord. But as soon as he becomes impure, he is in disharmony with the desires of the Supreme Lord. So the Vaikuntha nature to material world nature is harmony versus disharmony. In Vaikuntha, everybody are abiding by the Lord's desires. In material world, everybody are against the desires of the Lord. By contamination, he is forced to transfer to the material world where the living entities have three enemies. So what is that primary contamination? He is seeing the duality. And Prabhupada quotes that verse 7.27. Ichchadvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. Sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. Ichchadvesha, these are the two things. Desire and hatred, duality. Ichchadvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. This is that duality mentality of the living entity by which he fell down from the spiritual world. Sarva bhutani sammoham, all living entities will come under illusion. And they fall from the sarge yanti parantapa. They fall into this material world and they rot into the cycle of birth. So these three enemies force a living entity to continue material existence, and when he is free from them, he is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. So, Esham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drudavrataha. So if you have to go back to Godhead, if you have to become perfect in devotion service, you have to do three activities there. Antagatam papam, we have to stop all sinful activities. And jananam punya karmanam, we should perform all pious and devotional perspective activities. Te dvandva moha nirmuktaha, we should be free from all dualistic tendencies. Bhajante mam drutavartaha, he will have that fixed devotional service unto the Lord. That established devotional service. So since the basic principle of criminality are sense gratification, anger and unnecessary lust, persons conducted by these three enemies of the living entity are never promoted to Vaikuntha. So the people who are endowed with these three qualities, lust, kama, krodha, tata, lobhas, then they cannot enter into Vaikuntha. Krishna clearly mentioned about this perspective in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 16.21 or 21. Trividam narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama, krodha, sada, lobhas tasmad etat trayam trajet. Trividam narakasya idam. There are three ways of entrance into naraka. Narakasya idam dvaram nashanam atmanaha. And it will destroy, these three things will destroy atmanaha nashanaha. They will destroy the self. Kama, krodha, sada, lobhas. The three entities are kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, desire. Tasmad etat trayam trajet. One should be able to quit these three things if he has to come out of this material world. So the purport explains why these three things are dangerous. The beginning of demoniac life is described herein. So how demoniac life comes? Because of these three qualities. One tries to satisfy the lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. So lust is the primary principle. If lust is not satisfied, we become angry and we become greedy. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there is no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. Once you have been contaminated by this impurity of lust, anger, greed, then there is no chance of revival of that living entity by his own endeavor, unless some pure devotee's association is there. See how dangerous are these three: lust, anger and greed. There is no chance of liberation, Prabhupada said. So Kumaras thought these people have been maintaining that mentality of dualistic attitude, and they have been forced with these three qualities: lust, anger and greed. So they have to be placed into this material world. So Shastras explain what is these bad qualities, what living entity suffers, and how to come out of them also. Problem is mentioned with a solution also. So this is from a Puranic perspective. Padma Purana quotes these references. Santosha eva paramam punyam saukyadi karanam. This is explained by Lord Vishnu. Satisfaction is the biggest piousness and bestower of happiness. Asantosham param papi mityaha Bhagavan Harihi. And dissatisfaction is the biggest sin. Satisfaction is the biggest piousness and bestower of happiness. When somebody are happy, so when somebody is satisfied, he becomes very pious and he becomes very happy. Dissatisfaction, he will be committing biggest sins. Next. Lobaha papasya bijoyam. The seed of sin is greed. Moho moolam cha tasyaivai. And the seed of it is illusion. Asatyam tasya hi skando mahashaka shuvistarat. Speaking untruthful words is its branches. And mahashaka shuvistara, and it becomes great branch after being expanded. Mada kautilya patrani kubudya pushpita sada. False pride and crookedness are the leaves of the tree. Anartham tasya saugandhya saugandhyama jananam phalamevacha. And the tree grows up by the less intelligence. Cheating is its fragrance and ignorance is the fruit of the tree. Kudyam pashanda chaurasya kruraha kutasya papinaha pakshino moha vrikshasya mahashaka samashritaha. So when there is a tree, many birds take shelter of the tree. What are that birds? Atheists, thieves, cruel, cheaters, sinners. All are these groups of birds, they live on this tree of illusion. This is the nature of material world. That banyan tree, what we discuss in the 15th chapter, how living entities becomes bound in this material world. These are that expand. This is the elaboration of the tree. Ajnanam sufalam tasya raso dharmam falasya hi bhavodakena samvritasya shraddha kratu priyaha. And the tree, ignorance is the fruit looking beautiful of the tree of sin. In the material world, we are all ignorant in illusion. The taste of that fruit is irreligion. It grows up by the water of sentiment and its lover is faith in irreligion. Adharmeshu rasastasya utkledair madhuryate tadrishaischa falaishchaiva safalo lobapa apadaha. It has delight in unrighteous activities and it bestows sweet due to being moist. With fruits like that the tree of greed is fructified. This is the tree of greed in this material world. Tasya chayam samashritya yo nara parivartate falani tasya sokshnati swapakvani dine dine. A man who takes shelter of this tree shadow every day eats its self-ripe fruits. Falanam cha rasenapi adharmena tu poshitaha sa sampusto bhaven martyaha patanaya prayashyati. A person being healthy by the nourishment of the extract juice of irreligion of those fruits becomes fallen, sinful. So this is the tree which is that sinful tree of this material world, on which we take shelter in this material world. Most of us. Only now we have realized that tree is this illusion which is carried away by all the other qualities. We are trying to come out of that tree. Or else as a common man we are all lost into the tree. And the nature of greed, Shastras say, Lubdo doshanna janati, lubdah papam na buddhyate, naralobo samavishto, vasmeti tatapadam, jiryanti jiryataha kesha naka jiryanti jiryataha, jiryanti jiryato dantas trishna tvekana juryate. So, a greedy person, he neither discovers faults nor sins. He gets entrapped in calamities. Like when we are old, our hair becomes grey, nails become old, tooth become loose. But even when we are old, the greed never dies. The nature of greed within us will stay. Even the body will dwindle. The nature of greed will never dwindle from our body. Means how strong greed is. So what are the 3 triggers for greed? See, we all possess greed, and what circumstances they trigger us. When they see outside people, they say, this is a limited edition. How people do marketing? When you say it is only limited edition, only few pieces available, people will throng for it. Even though there is no requirement, because it is very rare one, I have to possess it. The greed first will awaken. This is one trigger in the material world. Very rare, people will always hanker for it. First one. Second one, envy. When others have, I don't have, I aspire to possess it, even though I don't require it. This is second reason greed will activate. The third reason, the temporary nature of this material world. See, for a devotee, he understands this temporary nature of this material world. He should not become attached to any of these things. Better become renounced from that perspective. But outside people, it activates them into greedy perspective. How? Our life is very short. Before I go, I have to accumulate so much for my family. So much for my descendants. Life is very short. I have to enjoy. I have to get more and more. I have to work hard. I have to work like a donkey. The same quality. We say the life is very short, try to renounce. But outside people, they take it as something they have to do more activity within that. In that way, their greediness increases. These are the 3 ways how greed entraps a living entity in this material world currently. Then, how do we win over these qualities of lust, anger and greed? Shrota Vakta Prachakkascha Yamti Tanmayatam Dvija Dukkha Daridya Daurbhagya Papa Prakshalanam Cha Kama Krodha Jayardam Cha Kalo Bhagavatam Kshamam Anyata Vaishnavi Maya Deve Namapi Durjaya. So the solution, what Shastras are saying, Shrota Vakta Parichaksha Yamti Tanmayatvam Dijaha. When the speaker and when the audience are engrossed in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dukkha Daridya Daurbhagya Papa Prakshalanaya Cha. So we become free when in this age of Kali, when that distress, poverty, sacks of sin are able to wash away all the unwanted, or we can win over lust and anger. Otherwise, Anyata Vaishnavi Maya, the illusory potency of the Lord, Vaishnavi Maya, Deve Namapi Durjaya. Even the demigods will not be conquered this illusory potency. So, Kama Krodha Jayarjam Cha Kalo Bhagavatam Kshamam. So the only solution for us in this Kali Yuga is taking shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashtapraya Shabadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevi. We every day recite this shloka. So by reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, every day be in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam, all the unwanted things from our heart are cleansed off. And that is mentioned by, what is that verse? Next. No, the next verse, that which talks about this Rajoguna and Tamoguna. That material world, the desire and hankering which comes out of that Rajoguna, Tamoguna. That is Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Sthitam Sattve Prashidat. We should come to the platform of Sthitam Sattve Prashidat. We should come to Sattvaguna. Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobha Dayasya. So when you take this Srimad Bhagavatam, the Rajaha and Tamaha are influenced by the mode of, which exhibit through the mode of Kama Lobha. greed and lust. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is the process for us how to become free from this or win over this tendency of kama, krodha, lobha. Then further, wherein Prahlad Maharaj, he says in his teachings, Hari sarveshu bhuteshu bhagavan asta ishvaraha iti bhutani manasi kamaiste sadhu manayet. So, Hari Bhagavan Ishvaraha, one should always remember the Supreme Lord Hari, who is there as Paramatma in the one's heart. And Aste Sarveshu Bhuteshu, who remains in every living entity's heart, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kamaiste Sadhu Manayet, one should offer respect to every living entity. Iti Bhutani Manasa, according to the living entity's position and manifestation. So, giving respect to everyone. Amanina manadenaha, giving all respect to others without expecting any respect from others. And one should respect the Supreme Lord in everyone's heart, who is there as Paramatma in everyone's living entity. Evam nirjita sadvargaihi, one free from all the 6 kinds of enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness and jealousy. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. One should be free from this. Evam nirjita shadvargaihi, one should conquer over the 6 kinds of enemies. Kriyate bhakti ishvarahe, and one should engage in pure devotion service to the Lord Ishvare. Who is that Ishvare? Vasudeve Bhagavati, that Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Yaya samlabhyate ratihi, then one will be able to attain that love of Godhead for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we practice these principles, as laid down by Acharyas, and we follow these principles by avoiding unnecessary offenses and giving respect to others, worshipping the Supreme Lord, by engaging in devotional service and by rendering practical devotional service, one can quit all these 6 categories of enemies and come to the platform of pure devotional service. We develop love of Godhead to the Lord. Yaya samlabhyate ratihi, we develop the platform of love of Godhead. And one more place, the Lord says to Uddhava in Uddhava Gita, Yastu asamyata shadvargaha prachandendriya saratihi jnana vairagya rahitaha tridandam upajivati suran atmanam atmastam nihnute mamcha dharmaha avipakva kashayo asmat amusmacha vihiyate. So, yastu asamyata shadvargaha, one who is not controlled by the 6 forms of illusion, and prachandendriya saradihi, whose intelligence is the leader of senses, he is extremely attached to material things. Jnana vairagya rahitaha, one who is bereft of knowledge and detachment. Tridandam upajivati, one who accepts sannyasi as a means of livelihood. Suranan atmanam atmastam nihnute mamcha, one who forsakes or denies the worshipable demigods, his own self, the Supreme Lord within himself. Dharmaha, one who has destroyed all his religious principles. Avipakva kashayaha, and one who is infected by this material contamination. Asmad amusha vihiyate, he is deviated, lost in this world and in the next also. So if you are not able to conquer these 6 enemies, we are lost into this material world and no future for them in the next life also. So similarly, all our Acharyas have also mentioned about this nature of this lust, anger, greed. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had compiled a small Vaishnava bhajan explaining these qualities and how we have to come out of them. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, our mind is most lusty, it is never satisfied, it keeps on asking for more and more unwanted material things, accumulation. Therefore, if we have to conquer this mind, we have to take shelter of Radha and Krishna in the association of true Vaishnavas. Only then we can come out of these material sufferings. That bhajan says, Bhavo na manatumi ati dushtaha. Kama krodha lobha moha madadi avishtaha. He says, oh my dear mind, you have not thought of this. You have not thought of this. You are very wicked. You are overwhelmed by lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and so on. Asat varta bhukti mukti pipasa akrishta. Asat kata balo lage he. Pratistasha kutinati shatathadi pista. Sarala to hole nahe. गिरेच तोमारे भाई ये सब अरिष्टा ये सब तो शत्रु है. So असत वार्ता भुक्ति मुक्ति पिपासा अकृष्टा. We are thirsty for hearing mundane news, enjoying material sense gratification and seeking liberation. Asat varta, mundane news; bhukti, enjoyment in this material world; mukti, liberation. Pipasa akrishtaha. Pipasa means thirsty, and we are hankering for these three things. Asat kata bhalo lage hai, and we think nonsensical tongue sounds very pleasant. Grame kata very pleasing to hear. Pratistasha kutinati shatathadi pistaha. We have been crushed by the desire for fame as well as by hypocrisy and crooked dealings. Saralato hale nahe, and we are not very simple or straightforward. Girecha tomare bhai ye saba arishta. You are completely surrounded, dear brother, by all these inauspicious signs of death. Ye sab to shatru hai. Oh, they are these indeed your deadly enemies. Ye saba nachade kishe pabe Radha Krishna. If you do not give up these things, then how will you attain Radha and Krishna? Jatane chado, chado hai. Carefully abandon, just abandon them. Sadhu sangha vina ar kota tava ishta. Other than association of sadhus, where else is your real benefit to be found? Sadhu sangha karo, karo hai. Just keep the company of saintly devotees. Vaishnava charane maja guchibe anishta. Just immerse yourself in the lotus feet of a Vaishnava and all unwanted things will disappear. Ek baar bheve deko hai. You just think all about this for once and see for yourself. See, practical problem, how these qualities destroy the living entity and what is the solution. Devotional service in the association of pure devotees is the only option. See, the nature of this material world, we understand. There was one king who was a great devotee of the Lord. So, he was very much always wanting to do benefit for everyone in his kingdom. He wanted everybody to become devotees in his kingdom. So, every day he used to go to the temple which was on the top of a hillock. He used to worship the Lord very nicely, ardently used to worship. So one day, because of his sincere prayers, Lord appeared before him and gave him one benediction. My dear boy, what do you want? He said, my dear Lord, I wanted your compassion to be shown to all the people in my kingdom. I wanted everybody to become devotees. I wanted everybody have your darshan, so become attached to you. The Lord said, it is not practical. Everybody are not readily for devotional service. They will not be able to appreciate. But the king persisted, no sir, no Lord. You should be compassionate upon them. They are not interested, but you should be favorable to them. You should give them an opportunity. So the Lord said, okay, tomorrow morning, bring all of them by 10 o'clock on the top of the hill. I'll give darshan, as promised to you. So the king went home. He made an announcement into the entire kingdom. All the people, please assemble at the palace. We'll start walking towards the hillock where the temple is there. Everybody will have darshan of the Lord. So the entire village, entire kingdom was assembled there. And the marching started. The king, queen, all his ministers, all the prime people and everybody, everyone from A to Z, everybody were there. When they went little distance ahead, when they came out of the city, they saw outside one huge mountain of copper coins. Few people ran behind that copper coins. The king is saying, don't bother, don't bother. The Lord is there. Let us go for the Lord first. People said, first let me have this. Tomorrow also I can see the Lord. Lord is not going anywhere. After some more distance, they found silver coins. One batch of people again ran behind them. The king is inviting them, no. Then some more distance, there were gold coins. All the ministers started running behind them, gold coins. The king and queen were only left over, they started walking. After some more distance, there were jewels and precious stones. The queen started running. The king is saying, forget all these things. They said, you forget, but first let me have this. Tomorrow also, Lord, I can see. Finally, when the only king alone went to the top of the hill and he had darshan of the Lord. The Lord said, see, I had explained to you the nature of these people. They are not ready for devotional service. See, this greediness, this lust, anger, greed, all these things and all, when that qualities are there, even though we try to bring them towards devotional service, they get carried away by that qualities. So only by pure devotees association, they can develop a taste for coming out of that first. And the nature of greed is so strong. In a village, there were 4 Brahmana priests who were struggling to make their maintenance. Very devoted persons. Devoted people means devoted to their duties. But they have been thinking, what is this? We have been trying to do our duty, but even to maintain our family, maintain ourselves, it is becoming very difficult for us. So after repeated endeavors and they could not earn money or maintain themselves in a family life, all these things and all, they thought this village will not be able to survive with this way. We'll go to some other place where we'll be able to earn more. So on the journey, they found one sadhu, a devotee in an ashrama. So he invited them, gave them some drink to water to drink, some fruits, and some rest place he provided them. Then after they are eaten and they have taken sufficient rest, the sadhu asked them, where are you coming from? Where are you going? The people explained what is their nature and what happened to them, how struggle they had done in their life, how they had to manage themselves with very less resources, all these things and all. So they are going to some other place and they wanted to find somewhere other, we wanted to earn wealth. They thought either we'll earn money or we'll die there. No point of again coming back and struggling this life of poverty and all. Because of their frank reply, sadhu was very much taken back. These people, so much opportunity for them. So they could be self-satisfied people, but they are thinking of taking very wrong decision in their life. So feeling compassionate upon them, he gave to these 4 people 4 lamps. And he said, you go towards the Himalayan direction. Wherever a lamp becomes off, you dig there and you will get what you wanted. The 4 people started walking. After some days, the first person's lamp got off. Then all the people dug that area and they found copper coins there. Copper coins and other things and all. He took to his satisfaction. He told the other three people also, you can also take off your satisfaction, we'll go back. But the other 3 said no. So this person took his copper coins and went back home. Then after some more time, the second person's lamp got switched off. They dug there again. They found silver coins there. The second person, how much he could carry, he picked up that many coins. And he said to the other people also, take these 2 coins, how much you want, how much you can carry, we'll go back. Be satisfied. They said no. They went further ahead. The third one's lamp got off. They thought, see, first 2 already we heard. So it is already possible that every time it is escalating in the quality. First copper, now silver, next we may get gold. So actually when they dug up, they found all gold coins. So the third person took how much he could want and he asked the 4th person also, be happy, we found don't be greedy, don't be. But the fourth person said, no. So if I go further, I might get more. As per the escalation matrix, ALM, copper, silver, gold, what will be the next? Diamonds and all these things. The third person said, okay, I'll wait for you. Whatever you get, you take and come back. So the third person said, I'm not going to come with you. The fourth person, when he went further, he saw at a distance there was one man who was sitting there crying. On his top there was one chakra with all the needles piercing on his head, and it is rotating. He went there and he asked that person, and why are you suffering? As soon as he asked that person, that chakra moved from that person's head and started spinning on this person's head. The fourth person said. Then that person said, I also came like you, without being satisfied at the other three places. And this is the punishment what is been endowed upon me. So for those who are very greedy, they have to suffer. Then this person asked, is there any solution? How can I come out of the suffering? Unless somebody else comes in search of that greediness again, you can never be relieved. You have to suffer till that time. In the meantime, the third person who was waiting for a long time that the fourth person will come back, he never came back. So he started walking there. He went there and he saw that friend sitting there struggling. Then he had asked what happened. Then he narrated the entire issue. Then he said, see how greed destroys a person. You could have been satisfied with whatever is given. That's how you blessed us. But you wanted beyond the blessings. So this is the problem in this material world. So when Lord has given us the opportunity, we wanted something beyond the Lord. We wanted something to possess more than what is sanctioned by the Lord. That's where we lose our credentials. So Kumaras are trying to explain this nature of this material world. So we have to be very careful what can take us away from Krishna consciousness. And if you are taken away, how to come back. So both we would understood here. We will stop here. Any questions or doubts? ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेम।
శ్రీకృష్ణుణ్ణి చేరుకోవడానికి కృష్ణ భక్తిని అందరికీ అందించటానికి బృందావనం వైపు కలేస్తున్న యమునోత్రి. విష్ణుపాదమే తన పుట్టినిల్లుగా కైలాసం చేరుకోవడానికి పరుగులు తీస్తున్న గంగోత్రి. కురుక్షేత్ర ఘోరహత్యా పాపం శంకరుణ్ణి శాంతపరచడం లక్ష్యంగా పాండవులు నిర్మించిన కేదార్నాథ్. సమస్త సాధు పుంగవులకు, ఋషులకు, ఆధ్యాత్మిక సాధనకు స్ఫూర్తినిచ్చే నరనారాయణులను నడయాడిన ప్రదేశం బద్రీనాథ్.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణవాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700.
శ్రీకృష్ణుణ్ణి చేరుకోవడానికి కృష్ణ భక్తిని అందరికీ అందించటానికి బృందావనం వైపు ఉరకలేస్తున్న యమునోత్రి. విష్ణుపాదమే తన పుట్టినిల్లుగా కైలాసం చేరుకోవడానికి పరుగులు తీస్తున్న గంగోత్రి. కురుక్షేత్ర ఘోరహత్యా పాపం